Literally the hardest show I've ever had to put together. Ryan and I have pushed this thing twice now, but here we are. First time on our weekly show. This may be a weekly occurrence as far as how hard it is to put the show together, but we're going to make it happen week in and week out. A lot of people requested this. You finally got it. There's a lot to talk about. Week 1 for the 49ers is right around the corner. Bosa is still not signed. There's going to be rain in the forecast, and Brock Purdy has been done absolutely dirty by the Ringer. We're going to talk about all of that plus more next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it's a special pairing. This is going to be all season long. The time is yet to be determined each week, but I got my guy Ryan with me. Ryan, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Persistence breaks resistance, as we're taught in sales. So I'm glad we were persistent. we figured it out, and we'll dial in the correct time moving forward. But man, it's good to be here on Last Second Sports. Make sure you guys want to super chat. You watch this on Last Second Sports channel because I'm super chatless through November.
Super chatless. That's a good way to put it. I like it. Listen, at least you're going to get the second half of the season, which is the most important half. You'll be fine. We've been through some things over here. I lost a channel. You lost your super chats. Not a big deal. You said, what is it? Persistence beats resistance.
Persistence breaks resistance.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's like our mantra. I think this is perfect. All right. Speaking of persistence beats resistance, Bosa. So we don't know exactly what the details are, but I put out a poll on Twitter and then also on the YouTube channel, had over 2,000 votes and nearly a 50-50 split. Aaron Donald makes just under $32 million a year. So the question that I posed, and we have no idea, it's a hypothetical, but I do want to know what the limit is for 49ers. And I think we're right there on a 50-50 split. If the 49ers are offering $32 million a year, which would make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, but Bosa wants 35, do you do that deal? Why or why not? And why do you think the fans are split? Like, this seems to be the magic number where fans are split. Two different posts, two different polls that got over 1,000 votes, and both of them are nearly 50-50 deadlock. It's kind of crazy.
That's very typical of the 49ers fan base to be exactly divided, right? Yeah. I'm divided myself, man, to be honest with you. Like, I'm always pro player, and I understand trying to get your bag if you're Nick Bosa, but if we're talking like $2 or $3 grand, like $2 or $3 mil, I mean, it sounds like it's a lot for me and you, right? $2 or $3 mil is a lot of money. But like if it's between 32 and 35 million, if that's the difference, let's get this shit done, man. Like, excuse my language. It's early in the morning. I apologize, but let's get this thing done. You know, like, I don't know. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, Niners, just pay the man what he wants. Sometimes I'm like, Nick Bosa, quit being greedy, man. Like, it's hard for me to really, you know, and the truth is we really don't know all the details, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what Nick Bosa is saying versus what his agent is telling him he has to do, or his father or whatever. So there's a lot involved with this that we don't know. I just know as a Niner fan, I wish Nick Bosa was ready to go week 1, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Edgardo wants to know why you lost super chats. It's because of his foul mouth. Did you just hear him? My goodness sakes.
Yeah, I don't. It's a long story. They said I use reuse content, which basically means like press clippings or clips of other videos, but
yeah,
literally everyone else does it. So I don't know. Maybe because I'm too handsome, they didn't like it.
That's probably it. You're too sexy for super chats. Melvin says fans pretend like the owner's money is theirs. I agree with this to a certain extent. It's not our money. We're talking billionaires paying millionaires. I get it, but there is a salary cap, and I think fans should be cognizant of that and how that works and how it could potentially impact the future of the team. I'm not saying not to pay Bosa. I don't even know what he's asking for. If it's 35 a year, that's tough. That's to me, that's where I'm the same way. Like that's kind of my limit where I'm like, maybe I'm comfortable with it, but it's a lot of money. And the salary cap does matter and it does impact things in the future. So I don't care about the Yorks paying him a bunch of money. I don't care that he's asking for a bunch of money, but I do care about the salary cap. And Ted comes in and says both sides are to blame. Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine that both sides are to blame. No doubt about it. Pissed off brother Bob says, take my money nails. And Ryan, capital G, let's freaking go. Ryan O, capital G. I like it. He's calling you the OG.
That's my guy.
All right. I mean, I know I've talked about the Bosa thing a ton. You've talked about the Bosa thing a ton. I just wanted to get your thoughts since we were here kind of face to face, and that was a different look at it. Obviously, we don't know the situation, but I've got to believe at this point that the 49ers are close to that Donald number, and Bosa wants more. And I think that might be the holdup. My frustration has been they should have looked into it earlier, Ryan. Like, why wait now? Why are we up against the season and this deal is this hard pressed to figure out? That's my issue.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that was wrong with this. First of all, like the 49ers process with these things, they wait too long to do this. You know, you want to get in front of this, right? You want to set the bar in the March. And so everyone else can come in and be the highest paid guy. You want Nick Bosa to be the highest paid player in March, not in September, right? Because if you do it in September, other guys are setting the bar and they're raising the number on you. So you want to get in front of these things early. The 49ers have consistently, this is our policy. This is what we do. Like, okay, well, how's that working for you in this instance? The other thing is the Nick Bosa side, man. It's like, you know, if it is 3-4 million, I mean, after taxes, you're talking on 2 million per year, something like that. I mean, my lifestyle is not that much different if I'm making 30 million a year or 35 million a year. I mean, either way, I'm doing all right, man. So I feel both sides. I understand both sides, but it's just annoying to me because I'm a Niners fan. I want Nick Bosa out there. If they lose to Pittsburgh, I mean, people just look at, oh, it's just week one, no big deal. But I mean, if we're one game away from sealing the number one seed at the end of the year, it's going to matter.
That's exactly my point. Like, that is the point I've been trying to make is the number one seed has been something I've been talking about all off season. Debo is starting to echo those sentiments. He's talked about the number one seed as of late and how important it is and how when they made their run a couple years ago, they had a bye week and how important that was for their bodies. He sees it. He and Shanahan have talked about it supposedly. They understand the number one seed's important. And you're right. I mean, a week one loss can be the difference potentially in that number one seed. And that's not a place that you want to be. And I think for me, the most frustrating thing that can come out of this is that they do eventually sign him, but he misses multiple games in the process. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to sign him eventually, just sign him now. And if you're going to trade him maybe this offseason, okay, play that game, have him sit out, go that route. But I think him missing games and still getting signed is like the worst outcome because why did he miss games? That's frustrating. I don't know.
What I wanted to do, and it's documented, you can, it's not popular, but what I wanted to do is trade him for Aaron Rodgers and avoid all this. And then you have a legitimate franchise quarterback. You don't have Sam Darnold on your team. Brock Purdy's the backup. And you would be a Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. If 49ers had Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I think everyone would be predicting that the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. So that would have been my plan. I would have got rid of Bosa for Aaron Rodgers and had them give us another pick or something in the process because, I mean, the Packers, what they trade him to the Jets for like a second and a third. I'm not big. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jesse. I'm not big on paying Nick Bosa or anybody franchise quarterback money if you're not a franchise quarterback. Nick Bosa doesn't play quarterback last time I checked. So I'm not big on that. But at this point, what are you going to get for him that's going to help you win the Super Bowl? So at this point, to me, it's sign him, pay the man. If you don't like the contract, trade him after the season's over.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally where it's at. All right, Pissed Off Brother Bob says, Melvin's tripping. I pay for game apparel, etc. It's my team. I like it.
Hey, Brother
Quana
Bob,
says,
real quick, Jesse. Brother Bob and Melvin. Brother Bob's one of my favorite people on here. Melvin is my guy I grew up with. He's a Cowboys fan. He tunes in just to support. So I want you two guys to get along. That's important to me.
Fair enough. Quana says, trade Bosa for quarterback if you can. Dak, Cousins, find one. I think we're too late for that. Personally, I don't think you can make that deal right now. And I think the 49ers are also comfortable with Brock Purdy. That, my friends, is a segue to the next topic. Purdy done dirty by the Ringer. I don't know if anybody's checked out the Ringer. Actually, let me pull this up real quick because it's kind of important. Kind of need this for this next part of the segment. Let's see here. All right. So the Ringer ranked all the quarterbacks in the NFL. They ranked Brock Purdy 32. 32. I don't know if you know this, but there's 32 teams in the NFL, which means they have him dead last in the NFL. That, as far as starters go, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. There's no way he's 32, especially going into this season. I want to give the list of the next 10 guys, and Ryan and I can go through it and make our decision on if we would take Purdy or the guy that's in front of him. So number 31 was CJ Stroud. Now, I'll start this one off because I want to set some parameters on this. This is not for having your guy for the next 5 years, 10 years. If it was, I love CJ Stroud. I think, to me, he was the best quarterback coming out this year. I think his accuracy is all worldly. I could definitely see a situation where he and Shanahan would absolutely ball out together. This is for this season. That's what these rankings were for. I personally cannot take somebody who has played 0 snaps in the NFL and put them above somebody. I understand that Purdy has had limited snaps, but I can't then put them above Brock Purdy. That's one thing we've talked about, Ryan. We want to see more from Purdy. We're not willing to take a 7 to 9 game sample size and say this is who he is or this is who he isn't. We have our opinions, but we want to see more, basically, is the conclusion we've come to. I would be going against everything I've said about Brock Purdy if I put a rookie ahead of him. I can't take CJ Stroud this year above Brock Purdy. What about you?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 different questions here, right? Like, how would you rank them? I'm ranking Brock Purdy above all rookies because we haven't seen them play.
Yeah.
Now, the other question is, who would you rather have? Now, that might be different. Like, there might be some of these rookies that I would prefer having over Brock Purdy. But as far as ranking, like where they should be ranked right now, based on what we've seen, I can't put any rookie over Brock Purdy because we've seen 8 games from Brock Purdy. He hasn't lost a game he's started and finished.
Yeah. That's absolutely crazy, right? Like, I don't know. Again, if I'm starting my franchise, I'm taking CJ Stroud, and it's not even a question. But for 1 year, this year, I'm taking Brock Purdy. Like, that's also not a question.
Right.
It's just not. Okay. The next quarterback was Desmond. I can't even say this with a straight face. Desmond Ridder.
They put Desmond over Brock is that's ridiculous. Yeah. And here's the thing too, like, man, I just shared what the Ringer said about Brock Purdy, and people think I am not for this. I disagree completely. I've been saying for a long time, I think Brock Purdy's in that 15-20 range. So look, man, I don't support this 32 QB BS. Like, no, I have Brock Purdy above that by far. And Desmond Ridder, no, come on, man. What? No.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield.
No. Absolutely not.
I can't stand Baker Mayfield. I cannot stand Baker Mayfield. Although I would have taken Baker Mayfield as a backup last year. I could have used him in the playoffs. So I will say that. So,
you know who I wanted? I wanted Gardner Minshew. That's who I wanted for the backup. I didn't get my wish. I didn't get my dreams to come true. That's who I wanted QB3 to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mean QB2 because Kyle made his decision.
I wanted him to be QB3. Kyle would have took him as QB2. Yes.
Right. Anthony Richardson, another rookie. I mean, we just said we're not taking rookies. So the next 2 are Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. Now, again, if this is to start my team for the next 10 years, I'm definitely taking those guys over Purdy. But for this year, I can't take I'm not doing it. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Kenny Pickett, who the 49ers play this weekend, by the way. So that's why I think this is interesting. Are you taking Kenny Pickett or are you taking Brock Purdy?
I think Pickett is very similar to Brock Purdy, but with better arm talent. So I would probably take Pickett over Purdy.
See, this one's tough.
if you had Pickett on the 49ers, I think he's going to have the similar result as Brock Purdy, but with better arm talent stretching the field. So I'd probably take Kenny Pickett.
See, this is tough. We've had this conversation off air, and I think they are a lot closer than people want to realize. I think Kenny Pickett, if you put Kenny Pickett in the situation Brock was in last year and you put Brock over in Pittsburgh, I think you would have seen a lot of similar play.
Correct.
That being said, the separator for me, and the reason I would go Purdy slightly, is because I've at least seen it. Like, there's speculation that Kenny Pickett could do it, and I believe that he can, but I haven't seen it. So with my own eyes, I have seen it with Brock Purdy. And because Kenny Pickett's talent isn't like otherworldly, I can't then take Kenny Pickett. Now, if Kenny Pickett had way more talent than Brock Purdy and I thought he could do it, I would say Kenny Pickett. But the talent difference is not, we're roughly in the same area. You know what I mean? So I can't take Pickett over a guy that I've seen it do in Kyle's system. I just can't.
I think that's fair. I think I've seen it in my head. That's why.
No, I have too. I have too. And
yeah.
it goes pretty much the same way, but I can't guarantee that. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the difference maker.
It's not by a lot though. Like I don't think
like
Pickett's way better than Purdy or anything like that. But I would take Pickett because of his arm talent. I think is better than Brock Purdy. But I think everything else is very similar. Like they both love scrambling and throwing to their left. They're both very similar in that regard, man.
That they do. Justin Fields. Before you answer that, let's make sure that we're on the same page with this question. Are we talking in Kyle's system, or are we talking we're running a franchise, we are building our own team this year, the coaches, whoever? Because I think that can possibly change. Like, I'm operating under the assumption for the 49ers for this season.
This is
the way that I'm looking at it.
Justin Fields has a ton of talent, but I'm also not sold on Justin Fields yet as a quarterback. Now, as an athlete, like he can run his ass off. Like he's one of the best runners in the NFL right now. But I haven't seen numbers from a quarterback standpoint that justify it. Now he's playing on the Bears, so it's very hard to, what would he look like on the 49ers? This one's tough for me, man. This one is really tough for me because, like, we don't know what Justin Fields would be like on another team with more talent around him. And we don't know how Brock Purdy is going to look in year 2. Overall, the talent level is much higher for Justin Fields. But Brock Purdy has shown, I don't know. You go first. Let me go after you. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I said that how we phrase the question is very important to me. I think Justin Fields would drive Kyle Shanahan nuts. In fact, I think if Justin Fields was drafted by the 49ers, we would have seen a very similar situation to what we just saw with Trey, where he may have been traded already. Like, I really believe that. And so, because Justin Fields is not a finished product yet, this is his year. Like, this is his year to show out. And if he does it, then I would say for sure Justin Fields, because Kyle loves when quarterbacks are finished products. Like, he loved Josh Allen once he was a finished product. He loved Patrick Mahomes once he was a finished product. But while they're in this stage of growth, I don't think that it fits what Kyle Shanahan wants. Now, if I'm starting my team and I could take a player, I'm taking a flyer on Justin Fields because the talent's not even, we're talking about two different stratospheres. But for this team this year, I have to go Brock Purdy, man. I do.
Purdy's kind of the better fit for Kyle. He's definitely the better fit for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan needs to quit fooling himself. Like, why did you draft Trey Lance, man? That's not what you really wanted. What you want is a Brock Purdy, man. Like, come on, be real with yourself. And you found him. Congratulations. In that regard, if that's the question, who's better for Kyle? Zero question, it's Brock Purdy, yeah. But as far as rankings, I don't know.
Yeah, like I could understand.
I think it's too early.
Ranking Fields, like taking that upside in like a ranking system. But for this team, I would have this team this year. I'd have to go Brock Purdy. I just would. Okay, yeah. Jordan Love.
I think I'm going Jordan Love, man. I think I'm going Jordan Love for me. I like Jordan Love, man. I think he's going to be surprised a few people this year, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I'm going Purdy again. Here's my thing with Jordan Love, and I've heard this a lot, like, oh, Jordan Love's going to be great this year. Like, based off of what, though? I'm not saying he won't be. I just think a lot of people have been big on Jordan Love coming into this season. And I think a lot of that is based off of seeing the transition from Favre to Rodgers, knowing that there's a good team around Love. But when you look at Jordan Love, I mean, his sample size of actually played games is less than Trey Lance. Like, his legit sample size of throwing in the NFL is less than Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do we know? You know what I mean? Like, I think that it'll look good. I think the talent's there. I love that he sat for a few years behind Aaron Rodgers. But would I be shocked if it doesn't look that great? No, I don't know with Jordan Love. And again, because I look at Jordan Love almost like I look at these rookies. Like, for sure, the talent, I like it, but I don't know enough about him. I know more about Purdy than I do Jordan Love. And with Purdy, the 49ers are winning games. So I would have to go Purdy over Jordan Love as well. Again, this is a one season 49ers roster. Who are you taking? I would take Purdy over Jordan Love for this one season. I would.
For this season on the 49ers, yes. Overall, yeah. I think Jordan Love is going to be better than people expect. Just the brief glimpses I've seen from him, he's looks like a complete quarterback. So, I mean, I keep going back and forth. If we're ranking it for the 49ers, Brock Purdy is going to be in the top 15 if we're just ranking it for the 49ers. Yeah. But if we're ranking overall, I'm going Jordan Love.
Yeah. Okay. What about Mac Jones? We got two left here.
Mac Jones is like Brock Purdy with a bad attitude. Like I'll take Brock Purdy.
He's Brock Purdy with Baker Mayfield temperament. Perfect.
He's evil Brock Purdy. He's like Brock Purdy's evil bad twin. Like I'm gonna go with Brock Purdy over Mac Jones.
Same thing. Only because of the mental side. I think Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan would have butted heads big time. I look at, like, Mac Jones just comes across super entitled to me, and I don't like that. It's the same way that a little bit different than Baker, but kind of that same temperament where it's like, come on, dude, you're not that great. You really shouldn't. All right, the last one is Jimmy Garoppolo, 10 spots ahead of Brock Purdy. This is where the list completely. Not that it was great going into this, but this is where the list completely fell apart for me. Was having Jimmy Garoppolo 10 spots ahead of Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that one's a no-brainer for me. I've been saying this for a long time. Brock Purdy's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He can do pretty much everything Jimmy Garoppolo can do and does, except he's got that mobility, that playmaker ability. He can see the field. He goes through his reads better. I'm going to take Brock Purdy all day and twice on Sunday over Jimmy Jeezy.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy. Yeah, look at McCorkle's real name. We know he's entitled. That's actual factuals. All right. Pissed off brother Bob says, okay, Melvin's cool, but Shannon still sucks. Fair enough. Keenan says Brock over any of these guys at the moment, to be honest. Yeah, out of the list that I just gave, I took Brock over those guys. Keenan says trade Bosa for Jessie and Ryan. No question, easy money. Let's make it happen. Yeah, I don't think you want to see two 40-year-old dudes on a football field. That wouldn't go well for the 49ers. I'm just being honest.
I'm going more for that GM role. That's what I'm striving for.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
For John Lynch's job.
Yeah, that's more up my alley. I'll take that one. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of assumptions, and I actually kind of fit into this side of assumptions a little bit, Ryan, where my statement over the last couple of weeks, even before knowing that there's a good chance Bosa is not going to be signed by week 1, is that I think this team is starting to migrate to being an offensive team over a defensive team. Like, I think we're slowly seeing that shift where Kyle has a quarterback that he fully trusts. Obviously, they have weapons galore on both sides of the ball. But it seems to me, especially with a new defensive coordinator, and I started to kind of see it towards the tail end of last year, that this team offensively might surpass the defense this year and be the reason that they win games. And I think that you're on the other side a little bit where you kind of want to see it, or maybe you don't believe that that's the case. So walk me through your thoughts on this right here.
So credit to you. I think you brought this up a few months ago to me on my channel, and I didn't agree. I'm changing my tune here, especially without Nick Bosa on the field. That's no question. But I'm changing my tune here, and here's here are my thoughts. I think the offense has the potential to be the stronger unit, at least early. And then later on the year, it might even out some. But I think the 49ers defense is going to struggle more than the offense for the first time under Kyle Shanahan in a long time, especially early under Steve Wilks. I think Steve Wilks is going to have a learning curve. I don't think we're going to see a really great start from the beginning, whereas the offense has some carryover under Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy coming back. So honestly, the 49ers have a really good offense if Brock Purdy plays the same way he did last year. If Brock Purdy could play the same way he did last year, maybe take away some of those dangerous throws that were dropped, because if some of those throws are intercepted, that could be a problem this year. But if Brock Purdy plays the same way he did last year, maybe a little bit more in the pocket, a little bit more controlled, this 49ers offense, the weapons that they have, I mean, CMC, Debo in peak physical condition, Brandon Ayuk in a contract year, who's probably going to have his best year of his career. And then you got the offensive line coming back, 4 return starters. We'll see what's up with McKivitz, but if George Kittle can be healthy, I mean, the 49ers offense could be really damn good. I mean, they're not going to be a deep threat. They're not going to be explosive in that regard, but they could be explosive from a yards after catch standpoint. Kyle's going to continue to dial up wide open passes for these guys. The run game, best running backs in the NFL as far as a running back room, in my opinion. The 49ers offense could be really, really good from the jump. Whereas I think the defense, despite having so many talented players, they could struggle. The unit that I think is really going to struggle, though, and I know this is maybe not part of the conversation yet, but special teams, man, that concerns me. And mainly kicker, but also in the return game. I mean, they're going to roll out Ronnie Bell probably, I imagine, unless Ray Ray's somehow healthy by Sunday. I guess we'll find out today about the health of those guys like George Kittle and Ray Ray, but it's probably going to be Ronnie Bell, who's a rookie. And it might be raining. We're going to talk about that later. I'm concerned about special teams, and that's why I've made some weird predictions for this outcome of this game. But yeah, I think offense is going to be the better unit, especially early off in the season. If I had to predict, that's how I would predict.
Yeah. You know what's interesting to me is I don't know that the 49ers can repeat what they did last year. They don't have to, by the way. The number one offense didn't score anywhere near 33 points a game. So I think that you could see a downtick as far as like what they were averaging with Brock Purdy. But overall, I think this team, in order to really win a Super Bowl, is going to have to be driven more by the quarterback and the offense than it has been in the past. It just has to be. It can't be one of those situations where you get into these big time games where maybe the defense doesn't have the opportunity to take over, whether that's the way that the NFL calls games or what have you, or you just have an elite quarterback on the other side and expect that the defense is going to hold everybody down. I just don't think that's a recipe to win. And I think Kyle Shanahan has put a lot of pressure on himself to really be a catalyst and a reason why the 49ers continuously win and eventually do win the big game. That's the way that I see it. It's going to have to be that way. And so if the 49ers are truly going to be Super Bowl contenders, one, they need Nick Bosa. Like, I don't think anybody's arguing that. But offensively, I think they're going to have to be the unit, the most important unit, the reason that they win games. And I think that they can be that. I really do. You know, health aside, you never know what that's going to look like. And that can go off the rails for any team. But the talent is all over the place with this team on offense. And Brock Purdy is somebody that is trusted by Kyle Shanahan. I would expect big things from this offense. I think it has to be a top 3 offense in the NFL. And I think that they have to be kind of the catalyst for winning games when they start getting into the playoff moments for me.
Agreed, man. Yeah, and all this is based on Brock Purdy being healthy. Like,
Oh,
Brock
for sure.
Purdy's
Yeah. All bets are off if
yeah, all
Sam
bets are
Darnold's the
like the
quarterback.
season depends on Brock Purdy to me. We need Brock Purdy to play 15 out of 17 games and into the playoffs for this to be a successful season, in my opinion. They have a ton of the schedule's hard, man. The season is going to be difficult. The travel is difficult. So they can actually have a better team and still have a worse record. I think that's a possibility. But I do see the
For sure.
offense being the stronger unit at least early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that that's going to have to be the case, which is interesting because the defense really is kind of carried the offense early in some of these seasons. So it's going to have to be a switch. It's certainly going to have to be a switch. And if Bosa especially is not going to be there for the first couple weeks, I mean, that really changes things. That if there was any debate, that definitely sways it towards the offense. So that makes it a very easy conversation. But I think the conversation more so for us is even if Bosa's there, we believe that the offense might be the better unit this year. And I don't think it's that crazy to think that. Keenan says, I think our biggest concern for this game is the offensive line and special teams. McKivitz is up against TJ Watt, and the trenches is key for the Niners win. Well, this wasn't necessarily a topic, but let's talk about it for a second. We're going to talk about the weather and how that plays a factor. I know that you mentioned the special teams. Like, what are one or two things that you're looking for, weather aside, as to a reason why the Niners could win or possibly not win this game?
So to me, the biggest concerns for me, and I had a 49ers content creator on my channel yesterday, or excuse me,
Steelers.
I'm a 49er content creator. I had a Steelers content creator on my channel, and we were talking about it. My concern for this game, obviously Nick Bosa, I don't think that's going to happen. But my concern for this game is to me, it's going to come down to, they're both good teams. Niners have the better roster. They're a more talented team. But they're going on the road. They're traveling. They're in Pittsburgh, and it's tough. 49ers tend to start off slow. Hopefully that's not the case this year. But they tend to. Pittsburgh never does. Pittsburgh never slouches at home. Mike Tomlin always has his team disciplined. He always has them ready to go. This game could come down to which team is the most disciplined, which team gets the most penalties, and then special teams. Special teams concerns me. I mean, we'll find out today, I think, but are they going to roll out Jake Moody, who struggled in the preseason, off of a quad injury, in the rain, kicking? That's what they want to trust. That it's hard to kick on Heinz Field, and I think that's why they signed Wright. I forget his name. They signed Wright, the kicker Wright, who actually played in Pittsburgh. He has experience kicking in Pittsburgh. To me, it would be, I'm pretty sure that's why they signed this guy, because of who was on the schedule for week 1. And they might end up going with Wright. And I think I'd feel better about that than I would Moody based on what we saw so far, especially coming off an injury. So it's a huge concern. This game is going to be a battle, in my opinion. The 49ers are a yards after catch team. Tomlinson is going to have his team ready to tackle. Tomlinson is one of my favorite coaches. They're going to be ready. They're going to be disciplined. I don't know if you guys saw Tomlinson's breakdown on the 49ers. It's probably the best breakdown I've ever heard from an opposing coach prior to a game. He knows this team. He's done his homework. He's going to be ready. The 49ers got to be ready. They got to be ready to battle. And a lot of it might just come down to special teams play. Who's more disciplined? Penalties. And I think if that's the situation based on what we have going on with the special teams, I gotta lean Steelers, man. I think Steelers might pull this one off by 3 points. That's my prediction. It's not what I want to happen, but I think that's what's going to happen.
I think there's a lot of reasons why you could pick the Steelers. One, no Bosa. That's huge. Potentially no Bosa. You're right, Moody. That one of my keys to the game yesterday and talking with Sunil was Moody against his mind. Like, can he overcome his own mental battle? I mean, that's where he's at right now. And I think that's the delicate situation the 49ers play. If Moody's healthy and they don't decide to go with Moody, are they messing him up mentally even more? And I think they have to weigh that. They have to understand that kickers especially are a whole different animal. I mean, they're not necessarily fully a part of the team. They're kind of alienated. They're off doing their own thing, kicking on the sideline, doing their own mental battles. And anytime that you start to go down that path where you're losing it mentally, it can be a slippery slope. And so you've got a kicker who didn't display confidence in the preseason. Then he got hurt. And if he's available to go and you don't go with him, what are you doing to his mentality? But then the flip side is if you do go with him and his mental's not right, you might lose a game. And that's a big deal. So I think that Bosa, you just look at the talent of the Steelers. There is a lot of talent on that team. Tons of talent all over that team. I'm not saying they're as talented as the 49ers, but you remove Bosa from the equation, and obviously we're starting to bridge that gap a little bit. And Tomlin is different than most of these other teams. From the way that I understand it, he plays starters all 3 preseason games, even if it's just a drive, because he wants them to get used to playing football. So if any team is going to be prepared week 1 at home, I think it's going to be the Steelers. So I think there's a lot of reasons to pick the Steelers. I'm not necessarily doing that. We'll give our prediction here in a little bit, but I can see why somebody would lean that direction. I really could. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. And I think anybody picking it, I haven't seen a lot of blowouts picked one way or another. Salim says, keep up the great work, guys. Thank you so much, Salim. We appreciate you. Without people like yourself watching, this show doesn't tick, and we understand that. Okay, so let's talk about another element that has now come to our attention. I'm going to be at the game on Sunday. I hate going to rain games, so that kind of sucks if that's going to be the case, but it seems like there's going to be some rain in the forecast, about a 60% chance of rain during the game. So we'll see how that plays out. Don't know how hard the rain's going to be, but I think it does kind of sway the game a little bit and game plan potentially a little bit for these teams. So how do you think the rain factors into this game?
I think it's definitely going to be a factor, especially when we're talking about, we just talked about in regards to special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it just even more difficult, not only for the kicker, but you also got to think about the return man. Ronnie Bell, although I think he was fantastic, I thought Deshaun Jameson looked like the more competent return man than Bell did. Bell had a couple like punt receptions that were a little sketchy looking. So if Bell's your return man in the rain as a rookie in Pittsburgh, doesn't make me feel super confident, to be honest. And same with Moody. It's not only that, it might have an effect on Brock Purdy. I looked at the weather report, and it looks like it's going to start raining when the game starts, and it's going to end when the game is over. So it's only going to rain during the game.
Yeah,
so it's interesting, man. I mean, the good news is the 49ers have a run game. The other news is, Brock Purdy's got big hands, man. So I'm sure he'll be able to handle the ball. And it's not like he's throwing deep often, if we're being real. And those short passes that he makes are not that much more difficult in the rain. Where you really struggle as a thrower of the football is when you're going harder, you're pushing the ball downfield. That's when it becomes really a big problem. So it may not affect Brock Purdy that much, but again, it's the special teams that concerns me in this game, and that could make the biggest difference.
Yeah, Brock Purdy will be interesting to see. First of all, it may not even rain that hard. If we got a light drizzle, not a big deal. But if it starts coming down, I would be interested to see how Brock Purdy plays in that situation. A lot of people talk about the Seattle game last year in the playoffs and how he started slow. And I think a lot of people equate that to nerves. When you hear people talk about that game, I equate it to the weather. I really do. It started out raining in that game. As soon as the rain let up, that's when he started to take off a little bit and play much better. I don't think it was a nerve situation. I do think it was a weather situation. And so weather can impact anybody. I mean, we saw a much better 49ers team last year lose to Chicago on the road in albeit much crazier weather than what's expected this week, but it can be the great equalizer. Here's what I will say, though. We can talk about how it affects the 49ers. I think it also impacts the Steelers negatively. That is one thing that Brock Purdy does have, and it is a question mark. How well does he play in the rain? But he does have big hands. And Kenny Pickett doesn't have big hands at all. I mean, this guy wears a glove all the time because he has small hands. And so how does that impact the game for him? Once you start getting into these bad weather situations, gloves are not easy to throw with once they start getting slick. So I'm curious to see what it does to Kenny Pickett as well. I'll have to go back and figure out what games, if any, it rained last year that he played in and see how that impacted him. But I'm curious to see how that plays out for Kenny Pickett. I really am. And I think that it might be an impact negatively for him. You talk about pushing the ball down the field. Kenny Pickett does push the ball down the field at times, and he has receivers that can win deep. And so I wonder how it impacts them as well. I think that this could be an impact negatively potentially for both teams on that front. I really do.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not just about the 49ers in regards to this, but the difference for me, again, I think there's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to come down to special teams. And I think I would be more confident as the Pittsburgh Steelers, having that figured out. Like there's not a lot of new pieces there for the Steelers, whereas the 49ers, new kicker, new return man. So that's why it does concern me more for the 49ers.
Yeah, special teams, no doubt. I mean, if if we're going into this game and we're saying, all right, special teams versus special teams, who you taking? I'm taking the Steelers.
Yes.
You go defense versus defense. I mean, without Bosa, I'm probably going the Steelers. And, offense versus offense, that's where I'm going to lean the Niners. And then, coaches, probably lean Tomlin, but
well, head coach, I'd go Tomlin. Offensive play call, I would go
play
Tomlin.
caller. I'm going. I mean,
Yeah.
and obviously Tomlin's a defensive guy, but either way, like he's more of like a CEO of a team, and Shanahan calls plays. So I think his impact on this game individually can be more than Tomlin's because of that. Yeah. So I mean, again, I think it's a tight game that really can go either way, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. And I think rain just convolutes the conversation. And it's one of those things that really it could favor the Niners. It's something that until you see it play out, you don't know who it's going to favor. Really, you don't.
Well, I would say the 49ers have a better run game. So in that regard, if they're disciplined and stick to the run, then it maybe favors the Niners.
But who has a better run defense, right? Like that's where it gets interesting. The Steelers have a good run defense. The 49ers have been getting gashed all preseason. Can they pull it together, or are they going to all of a sudden start allowing teams to run on them? And if that's the case, even though Steelers don't have a better run game per se, they may have the advantage because the 49ers defense isn't stopping the run. And there's just a lot of question marks in this game. I'm excited. I honestly, Ryan, I can't believe we've made it to this point. That's what's crazy to me is this offseason seems so long, so drawn out, and we're finally here. We're like 4 days away. Like I'm going to be in Pittsburgh in 3 days. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. When are you going out there, on Saturday?
Saturday morning. Yes, sir.
You and the wife or just yourself?
Just me and some friends. So yeah.
Nice, man. Enjoy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
How are the seats?
Good. Lower level, like section 103 or something like that. Yeah, I got some good seats.
Good, man. You gonna be able to see Grant while you're there?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I know he's getting there Friday. We talked about it. He is bringing his wife, so we'll see if we can meet up. But I mean, I just saw a lot of Grant in person for
Grant for some
about
time,
a week. Yeah, it's been a while. It hasn't been that long since I've hung out with Grant, so we don't see each other. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Brendan says, "You guys rock. Keep it up." Thank you,
Wow.
Brendan. I appreciate you, man. That is awesome. I'm going to keep that one up once I read this one. Keenan comes back. Keenan, man, he's dropping the super chat. Says, "Drama filled and chaotic. We just need kickoff." That's exactly it. I mean, all of this drama and off-season hyperbole is just that. As soon as kickoff happens, it's all over. Now, there might be new drama. You lose to Pittsburgh, all of a sudden there's new drama, right? But I would rather take actual drama that we can kind of touch and see for our own eyes, and everybody in the fan base sees it, versus taking thoughts and random quotes and trying to come up with your own opinions. Like everybody's going to see what the 49ers are or are not this coming Sunday, and we're going to be able to talk about it. And I think that's what makes this a lot of fun.
I'm over the hypothetical drama.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. I want the tangible drama.
Right. Exactly.
All right, we've talked about the Steeler game I know that you had a Steelers content creator on. I've got Behind Enemy Lines tonight with Steelers content creator. I'm looking forward to that. But bottom line is we have to pick a winner. And sounds like you might be leaning the Steelers. What's your score prediction and why are you going that route?
I originally had it a little higher. Excuse me. So I'm gonna change my score prediction from yesterday. It's the same difference. I got the Steelers winning by 3, 27-24.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh.
If Bosa plays, do you change your prediction?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that out. If Bosa plays, I get that out. Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's actually totally fair. Anybody can change their prediction if Bosa plays because that's a whole different ball game right there. Bosa is a great equalizer. If first of all,
but also
if
Jessie,
Bosa,
what about Kittle? Like we find out today if Kittle's going to play. What if Kittle doesn't play, dude? If Kittle, I'm assuming Kittle's not playing. I'm assuming no Kittle, no Bosa, and that's why I got 27-24 Pittsburgh.
I'm assuming Kittle is playing in my prediction, and if we get to reserve the right to change our opinion both ways. Like if all of a sudden Kittle is not playing, and I thought he was, I'm probably going to switch my pick to Pittsburgh. I am right now. I'm assuming he's playing, and Bosa is not. That's the assumption I'm operating under, and I'm taking the 49ers. I'm taking the 49ers 23-20. I think it's probably a little bit lower scoring. The rain will keep it down. I just think it's going to be a battle, man, an absolute battle. And the 49ers, I can't pick against the 49ers week 1. I just can't do it.
So you got
even if my head says, what was that?
You got 23-20, 23-21, what'd you say?
23-20 49ers. Yep.
So that means you have 3 field goals.
3 field goals.
For the 49ers.
Yep.
That's where I don't know.
I know. Listen. I didn't say that I was making this prediction with my head. All right. I might be going with my heart. I admit that, but I can't pick against the 49ers week 1. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
Maybe the right prediction is 24-20 because then you don't have to rely on the field goals as much. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe Ryan, maybe I'm thinking ahead and it's 23-20 because they miss an extra point.
There you go. That's probably better. Yeah, I get it.
That's actually what happens in my prediction is they miss an extra point. They make one field goal, 23-20. That's how we arrive at the score. You didn't think I was thinking about it that way, but I am.
Yeah. Good call.
So that's it. I mean, that's the prediction. And again, I think the rain's going to be interesting, assuming that it rains. I still think we're on Bosa watch. Really, how long are we on Bosa watch for? Is Friday the deadline where we think he doesn't play? Is it Saturday? Like when does Bosa watch for week 1 end for you? Is it literally Sunday? We wake up Sunday and it's like, okay, I guess he's not here. Like how deep does this go?
Maybe 10 more minutes. I don't know, man. If he doesn't sign today, I just don't see it, man. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I just don't. I feel like if it's not happening already, it's not going to happen. So I'm just convinced he's not going to play. Yeah, I think the real pressure for the 49ers to get Bosa in here is their first home game against the Giants, which is going to be a tough game, and it's at home. And if it doesn't get by then, it's got to be the Cowboys week 5. Ain't no way they let that Bosa not play against the Cowboys week 5. So we'll see, man.
Man, if they go to week 5 without Bosa, I get like what they play Arizona, right? No, they don't play Arizona. Do they play Arizona? They have the Rams. Who's week 3? Giants?
Giants at home.
Who's week 4? Is that Arizona? Am I tripping?
I think you're right. Arizona. I think so.
I'm gonna look it up right now. I think
sure
it's Arizona.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's Arizona. So they're not going to trip on the Rams. Like if they beat the Steelers, the Niners are going to be like, we're not giving up before we play the sorry ass Rams. Excuse my language. They're not going to care about the Rams, but they might care before the Giants in the first home game. And if it doesn't happen, then they're not going to care about. I think it's Arizona, right? And so they're not tripping on Arizona or the Rams. But they are going to worry a little bit about the Giants, and they're definitely going to be concerned about that Cowboys game.
I mean, they have to be. I would think they would be concerned about week 1. Like, what are we doing right now?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what in the actual F? Guana says at the end of the season, what turns out to be a positive surprise and what is the biggest grievance? Brock Purdy, not the guy, et cetera, et cetera. Ooh, this is a really good question and definitely some foreshadowing here. I
Yeah,
like
man.
this question a lot. Like a lot. Okay, what turns out to be a positive surprise? Sam Darnold is the next Steve Young. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
I don't know. That could be. I mean, you never know, man. Sam Darnold could come out and surpass our expectations. It's definitely possible. I think, unfortunately, we are going to see him at some point. Whether maybe it's just hopefully it's just a game or so, but maybe he does his thing. This is very hard to predict. We're just kind of pulling things out of our, what, like it's very hard to predict what the biggest grievance is and what the biggest surprise is. Positive surprise. How about this one? Colton McKivitz is a true upgrade over Mike McGlinchey.
Oh, I was kind of, I almost said that. I was going back and forth in my mind. There's 3 of them I have in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be my positive surprise. And I think it's definitely possible, man, at least as a pass protector. I think Colton McKivitz might end up being better than Mike McGlinchey. And the offense overall being better than they have ever been. I think that's another, positive surprise for a lot of people. Biggest grievance. Steve Wilkes may not be what we thought he was. That may be the biggest grievance. I also have if this defense struggles, I don't see the personalities of Steve Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan meshing really well. I don't see that as a positive. Now, if they're winning, they're having success, it's a moot point, right? But if there's any struggle, if the defense isn't what it's supposed to be, if it wasn't what it was last year, I don't see those personalities really meshing really well. They're both very similar, hard-headed, direct, right? They're not the rah-rah guys. Neither one, they're very similar in their mentality. So I don't know if that's going to mesh really well. So that could be a possible grievance.
Okay. Positive surprise. I don't know that it's a surprise that much if that's the case. I'm still going to go with it. I think Drake Jackson ends up proving that he's the real deal. I think, much like what the Steelers have right now, it's not just Watt. They've got Highsmith as well, which is, I mean, this guy's a double-digit sack guy himself. He's really, really good opposite of Watt. The 49ers are missing that. I don't know that Drake Jackson is a double-digit sack guy this year, but I think that he is definitely a guy who gets established this year and shows that he is a bookend talent next to Armstead and Hargrave and Bosa. And I think that he makes it possible for the 49ers to potentially move on from a guy like Armstead because they feel like they have more talent on the D-line than maybe what we thought going into it. So I think that even though they play different positions, I think that he's going to be a positive surprise and allows them to move on from a big contract like Armstead going forward and freeing up money so that Bosa can get paid and all of those things. I would say a
let me
negative.
talk on that one. Let me talk on that one real quick because I have never seen a guy. This is weird. How do I phrase this without having to pause myself?
Just go.
I've never
just lean
seen
into
a
it.
football player tip more passes. We'll use the word passes.
There we go.
Than Drake Jackson has in my life. Like he has. I've never seen a guy get his hands on so many passes. It's in my life, the Drake Jackson, like every single pass, he's got his hands on it. And so it's really remarkable. So I agree with that. And then also real quick before you get on your negative, Cleveland Farrell, man, is a very talented guy. And I think he might have his most successful season here with the 49ers. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens also. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I would say biggest grievance. I mean, I would say the interior of that defensive line. I mean, I think that Armstead Armstead is very good in the run game, but he doesn't get after the quarterback. And Hargrave is like the exact opposite. He gets after the quarterback relentlessly, but doesn't really help in the run game. And I think one way or another, those guys are they're going to misfire somewhere. There's going to be a misfire somewhere. And I think especially if Bosa misses multiple games, that's going to be those two up the middle, especially maybe in the run game, can get exposed a little bit. And I think that's going to be really, really tough. The 49ers, again, a lot of people know that Armstead's good, but if they can just avoid him and run to the opposite side and kind of stay to Hargrave's side, Hargrave's getting paid a lot of money. And I think there's an assumption in 49er fans that he really can do it all. That hasn't been the case for the last few years. I mean, you go look at him in the run game and he's a bit of a liability. And the 49ers have done well in the run game on defense for, since 2019, really, for the most part. I think this might be the year where it falls off. And for a team that really wants to play a ball control offense, regardless of how many points they score, how good Brock Purdy is or isn't, they want to run and they want to play a ball control offense. They want to win time of possession. I think that defense might make it hard for them to do so this year. I think there might be some holes in this run defense, and I think that might be a grievance that we have at the end of this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that Hargrave is built like a run stuffer, but he's not. Surprisingly, and
he was early in his career. That was kind of what he was in Pittsburgh. Then he went to Philadelphia and became a pass rusher. Okay.
Yeah, the great news about I feel like the 49ers defense is going to be great against the pass, even without Bosa, man. Like, I really think having that pressure from Hargrave up the middle and then having Clellan and Drake Jackson off the edges is going to be formidable. I asked Grant this question. Let me ask you the question. I think it's a good question I've been thinking about a lot. Are you more concerned about the 49ers pass rush without Bosa or more concerned about the 49ers run defense with Bosa?
Run. Oh, no. Hold on.
With Bosa.
I think Bosa's a good run defender.
Yes, true. But still, even with Bosa there, their run defense.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right. Even with Bosa there, their run defense versus their pass rush. I think the 49ers pass rush without
I would
Bosa,
still say run defense either way. I think Bosa helps the run defense, but it's still more of a concern. I think for a few games, you can manufacture pass rush through blitzing and good corner play. So I think that not for a whole season. For a whole season, I would go the opposite. But for a few games, I would say the run defense either way. Bosa definitely helps the run defense, but I still think that there's some concerns there for me. So that's still a bigger concern for me. Like I said, I think you can manufacture getting after the quarterback through blitzing.
Yeah, they're going to be blitzing a lot. Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we're crippled per se, but we're not winning the Super Bowl without him. Like that. I don't think that's that bold of a take. They're not winning a Super Bowl if Bosa doesn't play this year. They're just not. They're not. And he is that good. There's a reason he was a defensive player of the year. He is that good. He makes the game so much easier for everybody else. And I think people look at it on an individual basis and try to break his game down that way and say, oh, well, he didn't get any sacks in the postseason and that type of stuff. He makes the game so much easier. Even in the postseason where he didn't get any sacks, his pressure is what allowed Amenahu to get home on a big play against Seattle to eventually really break that game open. So I think that Bosa just does a lot for this team. I'm not saying that it's an open checkbook, nothing like that, but he is important. If they're going to win a Super Bowl, they need him. They do.
I think you could say that about Trent Williams, CMC, and even Brock Purdy, possibly even George Kittle. If those guys aren't healthy and available for the Super Bowl, if they make it that far, good luck. I don't.
But also, I could take what he's saying that we're not crippled without him. Really, you remove just one of those players with all the talent, it's still going to be a good team. But is it a Super Bowl contender? Remember, the 49ers have sold all offseason. I got to go after this, but have sold all offseason. Win now, Super Bowl ready team. The moment you remove any one of those big name players, not just Bosa, it is not a win now team anymore. It is not a Super Bowl winning caliber team anymore on paper, in my opinion. I just don't see that. And it's not just Bosa, but Bosa is one of the 5 or so players that if you remove him from the equation, those Super Bowl chances diminish greatly. And there's no way I can pick a team without Bosa, without Trent Williams, without CMC or any of those guys. Does it mean that they can't win and be a playoff team? No, I'm not saying that. But are they a Super Bowl winning team without them? Absolutely not. No questions asked. Not even close. And we talk about 2020, but again, the defense, a lot of people say, hey, listen, it was a top 5 defense, and it was in yardage, but it was 17th in points. 17th in points. So I don't know. We'll see. One thing I do know is that ever since Bosa's been here, he's had one season where he wasn't healthy, and I get it. It wasn't just him in 2020. Who knows how that season played out? There was a lot of players out. But there's been one season he wasn't healthy and the team wasn't very good. And there's been 3 seasons he was, and they've been NFC Championship or better in all 3 of those seasons. So draw the correlation however you want. I'm not saying he's the only reason, but I think when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo, the whole winning thing for Jimmy Garoppolo, I think you can tie that to guys like Bosa, Warner, Debo as well. So that's just me.
Agreed. I know you got to go, so I won't comment any further.
All right, y'all. I'll be back tonight with Grant, 49ers After Dark, and then also Behind Enemy Lines here at 10:15 on Last Second Sports with the Steelers content creators. Appreciate y'all. See you in a few hours. Peace.